the Cubans and the CIA with drugs, because I thought that was a pretty big story. And the head godfather, Jorge Mascanosa, just died.
We'll get a response. Thank you, caller from Florida City.
There was a lot of questions. I'll try to remember them all. Yeah, there was a very heavy Cuban presence in the Contra organizations down in Costa Rica that were involved in drug smuggling. There was actually a company called Frigoríficos de Punta Arenas that was based in Costa Rica. It was a shrimp importing company that was owned by Cuban-American drug smugglers, and they had a State Department contract to haul supplies to the Contras. So you're right. I mean, there was a very heavy Cuban presence down there, and I'm trying to remember some of the other questions he had about.
Well, the caller's not with us now, but I was intrigued by his own background and wondering how many of those type of drug smugglers there are or were in the time that you did your research.
There were dozens of them.
Yeah, me too. It's currently the class of '95 reunion year, and so I think some of us will need to unpack some of that trauma that we all experienced, because if not, it continues. It's amazing. I'm 47 and I can still remember going to math class anyway, I can still remember Spanish. I can still remember, anyway, I can remember high school vividly. So yeah, unpacking it can be difficult, but definitely worth it, bro. Definitely. Compton High. See, hi.
There were dozens of them, and you know, one of the things he mentioned about losing an aircraft, I interviewed a former CIA pilot in Florida named Ronald Lippert, who leased one of his aircraft to this Contra organization, and it wound up in Mexico being seized by the Mexican police with like 2,500 pounds of pot on it. So, I mean, it's a situation that happened time and time again during the Contra War.
Briefly, can you explain how it worked for a pilot like this or the operator of a boat to get the drugs from South or Central America and bring it back?
What they were doing in this one particular drug ring that's in the book was they were flying it up through from Colombia to Costa Rica or to El Salvador. It would be offloaded from smaller planes onto either military aircraft in San Salvador, or it would be flown up, and in that case they would be taken to this base outside of Fort Worth. At least that's what the evidence suggested. In other cases, they would load him on, like he said, Colombian freighters, and in the case of this drug ring, it was the Grand Colombiana line, and they would ply the waters off the coast of California and Oregon and Seattle, and go into these ports and literally dump cocaine overboard, and frogmen would swim it ashore, and that gave one of the famous cases in California that I write about in the book is called the Frogman case, and it was the biggest drug seizure in California history.
Dark Alliance, the CIA, the Contras, and the crack cocaine explosion. By the way, there's also a foreword by a California Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Why did she write the start of the book?
Well, because this impacted most heavily in her district.
The LA County Sheriff's Department started monitoring me after I wrote the history of deputy gangs.
Most heavily in her district in South Central Los Angeles, and she has been the leading congressional advocate for an official investigation. I mean, essentially right now we've had investigations done by the suspects, the CIA, the Justice Department, and she's pushing for a quote-unquote real investigation by an outside agency or an outside body.
A few more minutes with our guest. Louisville is next on our conservative line. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.